Okay, so we're live with Federico Jorge here in SaaS Founders Group. I'd like to welcome you to the group, Fede. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, man. I think I've been a member for at least a couple of years now. I don't know how old the group is.
Yeah,
it's
I think it's about 5 years.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's one of the few ones that I keep coming back to.
Great. Yeah. And I know you from the SaaS Growth Hacks group, which is, I think, probably the biggest and most active group. So it's great connecting with you in there and getting to know you over the last year or two.
Yep.
And in doing so, I've got to know of you as a SaaS copywriter and also seen this great service that you've been launching recently. So I thought it would be a nice chance to get you in and talk copywriting, learn a bit from you about your expertise in that. But do you want to start by telling us a little bit about who you are and what you do at the moment, how you help SaaS companies?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've been a copywriter for like a long time. I think it was 2006 when I got my first job in copywriting, and I started back there in Argentina. I'm from Argentina. Cool. And I started working in the more traditional space. It's called the traditional creativity agencies, right? Doing print, radio, a lot of branding. And I have a big background in terms of how to make brands sound unique and competing against like big companies, right? Big corporates. And then eventually I started transitioning to the digital space. I got more and more interested in conversion copywriting. So I honed my skills around that. And then I found my space in SaaS. Like, I don't recall exactly how I found the SaaS niche, but it was kind of like the SaaS niche found me, right? Because I joined the SaaS Growth Hacks group, which is you just mentioned, and it felt like this is the kind of people that I want to be surrounded with, right? Professionally. And that just clicked. And since then, I've been just focusing on writing copy for SaaS companies. So I kind of like narrowed down my scope even more. And then from working with multiple SaaS companies, I did a few comparison pages for different products. And I realized I have a nice, solid process to get me from research to writing to designing these pages for my clients. Why don't I package that up and create an offer around that idea? And that's where Stack Against was born, which is my other brand, right? I have my personal clients still, fewer and fewer, but I still do one-on-one work, and I've been putting a lot of effort into growing Stack Against, which is this other company.
Yeah, it's great. I remember seeing it when you launched it, and I've always seen those SaaS comparison pages, right? They're really popular, and all of the big SaaS companies in competitive spaces, do this list of features they have and what the competitors are missing and how they differentiate. But what I've never seen is somebody specializing in creating those pages and such a focused service to do that. So it stood out when I saw that, and I thought, hey, what a cool idea. So I'd love to hear a bit more from you about that in a minute. But I thought before we move into that, I wondered if you could share any tips that you've learned over the years doing SaaS copywriting. So for any SaaS founders listening, any copywriting tips or tricks or experiences you've had that you could share with the group.
Yeah, absolutely. This is not going to be a very tactical tip, I'm afraid, but I can share certain resources if somebody wants to reach out. I'm open. My DMs are open, and I can share stuff. But basically, I think that the number one thing, and this was around that transition that I had from more traditional advertising to conversion copy, it was probably the one thing that made the biggest impact in my career. And it's about talking to your customers, right? And there's this belief in traditional advertising that, copywriters tend to be divas, right? and it's all about about me and winning prizes and creativity prizes and all of that. And the customer kind of like takes a second place, and you like people see it as a sin talking to customers because they feel like customers don't really appreciate what us copywriters or creatives are doing, right? And that perspective totally changed for me when I started doing this transition. And I would say talking to customers is the number one thing that is going to have an effect, not just in your copy, in your marketing, your sales, product development. And so I would say try to talk to as many customers as possible. If you don't know what to ask them, just Google jobs to be done, customer interview questionnaire, something like that. You're going to get a list of questions. If you still don't know, at least ask them 2 questions, like what was happening in your life when you went out looking for a solution like ours, and then how has your life changed or your job changed after using our tool. If you just ask them those 2 questions, you're going to get a goldmine of insights about the problems that they're facing, the challenges that they're facing, and the kind of impact that your solution has in their lives. And that's what you need to put on a page. And most of the times, right? I'm kind of like simplifying that. And I strongly believe that mediocre copy that connects to those challenges and impacts that people want to hear about is going to be way more effective than super creative copy that misses the mark. And talking to customers is just a way to like brute force empathy with them, right? So talk to as many as you can, record the calls, transcribe the interviews, read through the interviews again, and then you're going to start talking like your customers, thinking like your customers. And then when you write copy, make sure that you start like contrasting. Are customers really talking this way? You could even copy paste words from those interviews and use them in your copy. Like I've done it many, many times before, because sometimes it's not just about, it's not about being a talented guy or inspiration comes and you write the best headline. It's about knowing where to find those great ideas. And a lot of times they just come straight from your customers.
I love it. Yeah. I like those 2 questions that you were talking about. So it's what's been happening in your life, what's been happening when you were looking for this solution, what was the background to that story? And then the other one was how did using the product change your life or your work or this situation for you? And they sound like simple questions, but I think you do get amazing insights. I've asked them myself, but from the product design background, I know we've talked about this before because you work in copy and I work in design, but there are some big similarities in the way that you need to get the insights to inform
Correct.
how you work. So I love those 2 questions, and I'm sure that any founder here that could get together with a small group of users and ask these questions would get a lot of insights from them that they could use in copy, but also in many other areas of the business.
Yep.
Are there any experiences or examples you've had where copywriting has made a difference in a SaaS website or conversion or a project that you've either been in or been a part of or observed?
I gotta be honest with you, and I was talking about this with someone else the other day. I've been really, really bad at documenting results of my work. Like even when clients tell me, "Hey, this is beating what we had before, and we're increasing conversions, and we're seeing better leads or whatever," I don't follow up. Like I get busy. Like I don't know what it is, but I need to fix that ASAP. But I can tell you a couple of things. There's this client that we work with Stack Against, which is an online piano lessons app. It's an app, not purely a SaaS, right? And they were targeting this big keyword in their space, which is online piano lessons, for a long time, and they just couldn't grab those first spots for that keyword. And one of the articles that we did for them, we did a set of comparison pages for them, but also an article, kind of like a roundup article of the best piano apps, right? And we got the number one spot and a feature snippet for that keyword based on the article. And that was just like a couple of weeks after the article was launched. So that was a nice win. It's I think it was, last time I checked, 27K search volume keywords. So wow, quite a lot of interesting traffic coming from there.
Right.
Yeah. And then the other one that I do remember very recently, a client, I can't share specific numbers, but a client of us that they mentioned from an SEO perspective, the pages were still building up. Like, it's a more competitive space they're in. So you gotta build backlinks and supporting content to make sure that the comparison pages rank. But they found out, and this again connects to the idea of talking to your customer, that a lot of leads that are coming to their website are actively comparing alternatives, right? It's a very crowded space, and a few very well-known brands are taking a lot of the market share. So that consideration stage is very competitive, right? And because they know most users are coming from that idea of how are you different from the rest, they added like a hello bar, at the top of their homepage, saying, hey, are you coming from this competitor? Check out how we compare against them. And they rotated that for different comparison pages that we built for them. And they started getting a lot of traffic to those pages right away, like right from the homepage to the comparison page, which is a very bottom of the funnel asset, right? Because that's for people that are right now considering a switch or ready to make a decision. And they've been converting hundreds of leads using that tactic. So wow, that was a nice win, and also something that I learned from the customer, right? A different way to try and put these pages in front of more people.
It's a really clever idea. I wouldn't have. I've never seen it, and I wouldn't have thought of something like that. But it sounds like it's really effective. Could they track where the visitor was coming from, or would they just have a notification bar at the top for each of the major competitors?
I think it was, I don't think it was as sophisticated as tracking where they were coming from, because they did that for all their traffic, right? It wasn't like coming from a PPC campaign or a particular social media campaign. I think it was across their traffic. So they were doing that for all visitors, and they rotated different competitors. Yep.
It's pretty good trick there. Nice tactic. So can you tell us a little more about comparison pages? Typically, how do SaaS companies use these, and how do they make the most out of them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there are three big elements to how you can use these comparison pages. One is the SEO element, right? Where again, we go back to the customer. People, when they're looking for different solutions, they go online and they know about Zoom, they know about Slack, they know about Asana, right? The big brands. And they know those are options that they have because they've heard about them. But when they're looking for alternatives, they use that as anchors. So they go online and they start searching Zoom alternatives or cheap Asana alternative, or maybe, I don't know, Asana versus Trello, for example, right? So you got to make sure that you do your keyword research and you find exactly where your best opportunities are coming from, right? You might think we're a competitor to this brand, but maybe if you compare yourself to a different company, you're going to have a bigger SEO opportunity because that's a keyword with more volume. Or maybe you have a keyword with like lower volume, but at the same time, because you know your customers well, you know that your chances of converting a user that is coming from a different competitor are higher, right? So you gotta balance search volume or SEO opportunity with business strategy, and then decide which competitors you want to target with this strategy, especially when you have limited budget, right? Because if you can do 10 pages, okay, you're probably gonna cover everything, right? But if you want to do 1, 2, 3, get started with this idea, then you got to choose your competitors based on SEO. And when you choose that right, what we do is we properly optimize those pages for SEO. And then obviously you got to put them live. You got to start creating backlinks for those pages, interlinking from the rest of your site, from other articles, and building that those rankings, right? And that's going to attract very high converting or very like warm leads, right? Because again, it's a bottom of the funnel, high intent keyword. Then another element I would say is PPC, which is kind of like a shortcut to all of this, because instead of taking months or I don't know, at least weeks for you to start ranking for those keywords, kind of like shortcut that. You got to have budget, obviously, for PPC campaigns, but at the same time, you can target more keywords, right? So you can get more traffic. You can target, I don't know, if you're going against Zoom, you can do Zoom alternatives, you can do Zoom pricing, you can do Zoom reviews, or you can just do Zoom, right? And target a broader segment of customers, see what's working, what's not, test different ideas, angles for your ad creatives, connect that with the landing pages. You can be more, you can be faster in terms of that connect with people and just start driving traffic to those bottom of the funnel assets. And the third aspect would be sales. Because believe it or not, like there's a lot of companies still doing sales approach, right? Not everyone is doing product led, which is a high buzzword this day.
Yeah.
And when people are doing demos, when people are having sales conversations, customers constantly ask them, okay, this is all great, but how do you compare to Asana? How are you different from Zoom? How do you compare against this other competitor that I'm looking at, right? Those questions keep coming up. Everybody, like every prospect that I talk to, they tell me, yeah, customers keep asking us that question. And when you have a sales approach, having a repeatable, compelling asset that answers that question becomes a sales asset, right? Because you can just use it and use it and use it again to overcome those objections and answer all those questions from a single place. And we're even like thinking about new formats to add to our offer. One of the things we're exploring now is sales battle cards. So your reps or your people running your demos can have like this one-pager PDF or slide where you get insights on how you compare against the different products, and you can use that to drive conversations and drive people forward in your sales funnel.
Great. Hey, that was really interesting hearing you talk about that. So the three ways that SaaS companies are using comparison pages are enhancing their SEO presence for their pages. You also mentioned for sales assets, and there was a second point you mentioned, which was it for driving leads from the bottom of the funnel?
Yeah, the second one was PPC, kind of like
right. Yeah,
like a specific channel where you can shortcut. Instead of waiting for SEO to kick in, you just run a campaign and see if that's working.
And you would drive PPC traffic directly to these comparison pages in some cases and some tests. Okay.
Exactly. And you target your competitors because you're going to be bidding for keywords. I don't know, if you have a project management tool, you can bid for Asana alternatives or Asana reviews or Asana pricing.
I see. That's another clever tactic. I'm sure there's lots of SaaS founders that could really benefit from, working on these pages and trying some of these campaigns. Can you tell us a little bit for people listening how they can get in touch with you or hire your services at Stack Against?
Yes, absolutely. Facebook. I'm on Facebook, an unhealthy amount of time every day, I would probably say, because I moderate the group and I really enjoy spending time and talking to people and whatnot. So my Facebook is open for anyone. Friend me, send me a friend request, send me a chat, and I can answer there if you want like a quick, very informal way to get in touch with me. Anybody that's listening, and if you want access to the questionnaire that I use to interview my clients' customers, I'm happy to share that because we talked about that. So I want to give people something a little more tactical, maybe, on how to do that. And then the other, pretty easy, just go to stackagainst.com, and we explain our process there, how we think about comparison pages, how we go about writing and researching these pages. We have our packages there, and you can contact us, get a free SEO report going on if you don't know exactly who or which competitors to target, so we can help you there for free to get kind of like the project going. And yeah, just stackagainst.com. That's where you can find us.
Great. So you can get hold of Fede on Facebook or at stackagainst.com. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, Fede, thanks so much for joining us. I've really enjoyed having a chat with you, and I think you've shared some really valuable tips and insights there. So appreciate you joining us.